Unique Pathways is sponsored by Piedmont Realty Holdings, building better together. Bellaterra Landscaping and Hardscaping Services. ECS Prosthetics, we come to you. Jeff Burton Consulting, charting your path to a successful outcome. Major League Mindset, results on and off the field. Blue Sky Property Management, own your experience. BSN Sports, the heart of the game. And by Croze Sports, community, family, and sports.
Now welcome onto the show, an ECU baseball legend, an FSW baseball alum, a winning player, an all-around great guy, and a current member of the Toronto Blue Jays organization, Carter Cunningham. Carter, thank you so much for talking to me on this show today. Really excited to get into all things on and off the field.
No, I appreciate you having me on the show. I was looking forward to it.
Yeah. So before we start from the beginning of your journey, I mentioned at the top that you're recently a part of the Toronto Blue Jays organization. I want to know kind of what the most unexpected thing that you've experienced since you've joined the Dunedin Blue Jays about a month and a half, 2 months ago has been.
Oh, that's a good question. I would say I've learned a lot, not only about my game, but just like my game personally, but also just the game of baseball in general, just in this past month and a half that I've been a part of the Dunedin Blue Jays. Everybody throws really hard, and the pitchers are probably a little bit ahead of the hitters in today's game. And so as a hitter, it's an everyday chess match with the pitcher. And like I said, everybody's throwing 95 with ride at the top of the zone, and they got a nasty slider and good changeup to go off of it. So it's getting harder and harder, even just in being in low A. It's getting harder and harder to compete, and that's why I love doing it. Though it's a everyday challenge and it's fun.
Everybody always talks about the grind of minor league baseball. Everybody's there because they really want to win. They want to get better individually and as a team. They really love the game of baseball. Is why they play minor league baseball every day. Is that kind of the vibe that you've sensed so far?
Yeah, you gotta love it because it can be a grind, and I think it's all about perspective as well. I think when you kind of have the perspective of like, I get to do this, I don't have to do this. Nobody is forcing me to play baseball. This is my dream job. I'm living in my dream job. I'm living in the moment that I used to pray for. So
right.
That at times, like you were saying, like it can get monotonous, and you're playing every day, and here in Florida, it's hot and humid, and it can be a grind, but you gotta love it, and you gotta love what you do. And like I said, I'm living my dream job right now.
Yeah, 100%. Just kind of talking about Dunedin specifically as we wrap up the season here, what are a couple of the areas that you're looking to improve on, maybe individually on the field, off the field, and as a team, just working your way through the system that is minor league baseball?
Yeah, already, like I said, I learned a lot about my game. So already, as I was working with the hitting coach here, and we've been making some minor adjustments, some minor tweaks, and people are probably like, well, you don't need to change anything. You had a good college career and a good last season. Like, why would you change? But the reality is, like I was saying, everybody's good. Everybody's throwing 95 with right at the top of the zone. So one thing for me is I got to be able to handle that pitch a lot better than I have been this past month. So going into the off season, it's going to be working on, like I said, kind of tweaking those minor adjustments and being able to handle those fastballs with ride, and kind of working at the top of the zone, starting at the top, and then it's easier to work down rather than starting down and working up. You're going to be underneath the fastballs. So.
Yeah. And I think that, you talk about the grind set, you talk about the hard work you put in through college. That's kind of what the theme has been for you. 3 schools in 5 years. Before we get into the specifics, I want to just get your thoughts on the transfer portal, because a couple years ago, your journey wouldn't have been possible. You were going from Gardner-Webb to FSW to East Carolina. So how do you think, how do you kind of gauge the pros and cons of what the transfer portal has done for college athletics?
That's a good question, and not that anybody really cares about my opinion, but this is how I see it. I'm not a fan of it by any means. I I actually liked how I had to. When I transferred from Gardner-Webb to Florida Southwestern, I might have been good enough. I don't know if I was good enough to go D1 to another D1 school. I probably wasn't good enough to go to ECU at that time, but I loved how you had to sit out a year. Like
Right.
you can't just jump ship whenever things get tough and say, oh, this school sucks. I'm gonna go to this other D1 school, and then you throw in NIL, which is another conversation that I could probably talk about for hours.
And we will.
Just
We
how it's
will.
kind of destroyed the college landscape.
Yeah. That's interesting
But
that you say that
I
though.
feel
Yeah.
bad for the I just feel bad for the high school kids nowadays. Like the college coach is going to go get the fifth year that is a proven player rather than uh, really start the freshman that has potential and he will be good, but
Right.
you don't know about it because he hasn't played that at that level consistently. So I think it's a little bit of a mess right now.
Do you think that there's a way for it to come down to earth, either over time with a couple adjustments? And I know there's some stuff in Congress right now, but do you think that there's a solution to this?
I think what they did with, at least for baseball, they upped the scholarships. I forgot the certain number, but from 11.7 to I think it's in the 30s now, or is it
Yeah,
20,
it's about
20 high
it's
20s?
up in the mid 30s. I don't remember exactly what it is either.
Yeah, I think that's going to help a lot. I would like to believe. I think that would help sort of the like I wouldn't say tampering, but like paying players, like paying kids.
Yeah.
I think that helps if you just have like, hey, you got this full ride, and on top of that, if you do well and the local community likes you, you can earn a couple bucks.
Right. Okay. I want to start. I want to start from your very, very beginnings. Native of Haymarket, Virginia, graduate of Battlefield High School, 3 straight district title champion, 2017, 2018, 2019, two-time all district team. I read those out, but generally, what was life like growing up in Northern Virginia, and how did playing for Coach Burkhardt prepare you for what would be to come?
Uh, the coaching staff at Battlefield was top notch. Especially like I was beyond blessed to even play for coaches like that at a public high school. Um, they prepared me. They paved the way for me for my entire career and set me up. Not just on the field either, just off the field. I'm very close with the Burkhardt family even now. Brett, the Coach Burkhardt's son, Brett is one of my best friends. And then also in that group is Zach Agnos, who we grew up together. He's double A now with the Colorado Rockies. We, yeah, I mean, we've been best friends since second grade. So getting the chance to grow up with Zach and seeing how he worked and his work ethic and his older brother Jake, I was beyond blessed to be surrounded by a lot of good people in Haymarket.
I also read that some of your family was sort of into sports as well. Was that always kind of the venture that you were going to go down?
I would say so. Yeah. I'm the youngest. So, well, actually, my sister is, she's not an athlete by any means. She tried soccer at a young age and didn't like it too much. But my brother, he was always pushing me to get better. He was a big hockey guy.
Yep.
He was always a lot better at hockey than I was, and I was a little bit better at baseball than he was. So those were kind of our individual sports. He played club in college and
Cool.
had a good career, and he to this day is still I think he's back home doing a beer league. So
That's kind of on the track of what I wanted to ask you next, because I read that you played hockey when you were in high school. First of all, is that true? And were you any good? And how do those skills translate to the baseball field?
that's a good question. I was okay at hockey. I broke my collarbone seventh or eighth grade year. I got laid out. Just I was tiny growing up. I was always the smallest kid, so I was looking over my shoulder to catch a pass. I turn around and like I'm literally like parallel with the ice. Broke my collarbone.
Oh my
I
God.
tried coming back my freshman year of high school. I played in like 4 or 5 high school games, and that was like, all right, that's about it for me.
Oh my God.
I was decent at it, but I will say I do believe that the hand-eye coordination that I learned from hockey actually
Right.
translated into baseball. I would definitely agree with that.
I would say some of the footwork, even from being on the ice to being in the field, especially running the base paths, might be something that would kind of translate well. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I think the footwork is big in hockey. The best hockey players are probably the best skaters. Like you look at Connor McDavid, he's just the best skater, and he's obviously loaded with talent too. But really defining the edges of the blades, sort of figuring out the footwork and the transitions and things like that does translate into baseball fielding, base running, just like one thing that the Blue Jays actually emphasize is like tight turns around the bag. So you're trying to score on that base hit. Like every foot matters. Every how you hit the bag and how straight of a line you can get towards home plate is
Yep.
It matters.
Yep. And then I assume that you said after freshman year you got injuries from hockey, so that's when you quit and went full time to baseball.
Yep, that's right.
Was there anything else was it basketball, football, anything else?
No, I got cut all 3 years of middle school basketball, so that definitely ended my basketball career pretty shortly. Actually, never even got started really.
Awesome.
I tried that. It was really just hockey and baseball for me growing up.
Hey, can't argue with that. I want to talk about your college recruitment process. Before that, I have a kind of personal question for you. You're always pretty open about how important your faith is to you, on the field and off the field. So I just kind of want to know how big of an impact your faith has made throughout your life.
That's also a good question because it's something that actually I've really tapped into and grown over the past year, I'd say. My senior year of high school, I started going to church. I was not raised in church. My family is that's just not what we did growing up. Nothing against it. But I sort of started in high school my senior year, and then I was surrounded by some really good Christian guys on the baseball team at Battlefield that took me to church with them. And then I went to college. Then not that I was like going down the wrong path, but I wasn't really living it out, you know. I was being a hearer of the word and not really a doer of the word. So this past year, I joined a small group back at school, back at ECU, and surrounded myself with some just high quality Christian men and mentors for me that I can try to live by and exempt or just live through. And they teach me a lot about just about life in general.
Yeah.
And like, obviously we don't even talk about baseball there, which is awesome in my opinion. It's to me, the biggest factor in my life nowadays. I'm pretty certain that it always will be, on and off the field, not putting your identity into this game because this game is, it can be pretty daunting at times.
Yeah.
But knowing that the true victory is already won and it's already complete is just what keeps me steady.
I think it's super interesting that you kind of, it wasn't always a thing to you, and now it's become such a pivotal piece in your life, kind of transformational like that. Is that, it obviously came naturally to you, and it's something that you wanted to pursue. How big of an adjustment was that for you, just accepting that and then having it become a part of your daily life?
Yeah, I mean, I think this past year, like I was saying, since I really tapped into it over the course of this past year, I was sort of navigating like where does it sounds crazy, like where does God come to play like in my baseball game? You know what I'm saying? Like how do I glorify him in like just the little things that I do on the field? I was sort of navigating that this year. And I started praying on the on deck circle, and I had people come up to me and just say, you know, like that, like just that little small act, I think opens the door for so many people to like ask questions and explore their faith, which I'm all for. So just think little things like that. And then, understanding that the outcome's already written, that I don't have to worry about a game. This is literally a game. It's not like this isn't life or death. There's bigger problems in the world than me going over for 3 with 3 strikeouts. But the fact that God's actually given me like this able body, these talents, these gifts, to play at East Carolina and now with the Blue Jays, and understanding that, and when you come from that, you just try to glorify him in all things.
Yeah. That's really cool to me, honestly, just thinking about how the game is more than yourself, and yourself really is more than just the game of baseball. So I think that's a super cool perspective to look at it through. And I mean, I praise you for sharing that with everybody that is willing to hear it. Not much of a way to move on from that, but I want to talk about coming out of high school for you. You were ranked pretty highly by Perfect Game, top 25 in Virginia, named 2018 preseason high honorable mention All-American. Just for you, what was the recruiting process like? And then how did you ultimately come up with committing to Gardner-Webb?
I didn't really have a recruiting process because, believe it or not, my sophomore year of high school, I was probably 5'7", 5'8". And going into that summer, going into junior year, so that summer is kind of the big recruiting process for Division I schools. And so I didn't really have, like I was saying, I didn't have much of a recruiting process because I was fundamentally sound. I was a good fundamental player, but I just didn't have the size. Like that was just the honest truth. And I didn't really, obviously it's every kid's dream to go play Division I, and D1 has that rep around it that you need to, you got to go D1. You have to go play D1. But, for me, it was, junior year, I finally hit that growth spurt, and then I added some physicality to my game, where my game was already, like I was saying, it was already pretty sound. But then I was able to put on some weight and some height and became a pretty good player. But it was only Gardner-Webb or George Mason, and George Mason was 15 minutes from the house. So I, being the dumb high school kid, I chose the one that was 7 hours away instead of 15 minutes away, to get out. But no, I was grateful for my time at Gardner-Webb too. I learned a lot there. I learned a lot from the guys that were there on the team, and it just wasn't much of a recruiting process for me. I wasn't the best, I guess. I mean, coming out of high school, you listed off those things. I honestly didn't even remember those because I just remember myself being 5'7" my sophomore year and not good at baseball.
Yeah. I mean, it's different for everybody, right? Like that's the entire point of the show, is kind of highlighting how every person, no matter how they get there or what their journey was, that they can make an impact on the field. And if it doesn't end up working out, they can make an impact off the field. And I think that you're a perfect example of that. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But, I mean, a lot of coaches doubted you, it sounds like, and they said you were too small. You had all the tools, but just not quite there yet. And I think that Gardner-Webb really made an investment in you. And it sounds like what you're saying is that this is something that you really appreciated. But it's just like not everybody is going to land at an SEC school their first time around. So I think that's a valuable lesson to anyone that's listening here, to any fans that you have around. It may not work out the way you want it to the first time, but as Carter is showing, it will work out eventually, right?
Yeah. I mean, going back to the transfer portal and NIL, like if I am a high school kid right now, I'm going to a really good junior college. Right. Like that's what I would do. I just seeing how the college baseball landscape is changing. I think it would be smart to go to a really good junior college, get as many game reps as possible. You're not going to get better sitting on the bench at an SEC school for 2 years. You're not, unless you turn down draft money and you go to the SEC school or the ACC school, like you probably have a shot at playing. But like I was saying, like coaches nowadays are just going to go get that 5th year senior that is a proven player. So
right. I also don't want to gloss over your season at Gardner-Webb. Big South Freshman of the Year. Obviously, it was cut short due to COVID, but you had a 2.6 or .268 batting average. First of all, great season. And then I want to know, like, what the experience of being in a low major conference like that with the pandemic was, because as I talk about on the show all the time, everybody in the world experienced the global pandemic in 2020, but every single person went through that couple of months in a different way. So I just want to get your perspective on kind of how you dealt with that, and especially in the early weeks of March, what the ongoings were at Gardner-Webb.
I remember it was spring break when our season got canceled. We were on spring break, so nobody was even at school. It was just the baseball team.
Huh.
I think we were just at a church eating our lunch.
Yeah.
And coach walked in, and like obviously we knew what was going on, and I think the Ivy League was like the first schools to cancel their seasons, and then we're like, man, that's crazy. And I believe UNC Asheville just got to Gardner-Webb. We were about to play them in the weekend series, and then we canceled like the Friday night game, and then we ended up canceling the weekend series, and then next thing you know, like the day after, it's like, well, you guys got to go home, and I'm like, all right, what do I do now? And actually, it was during quarantine where, I mean, I put on probably 30 pounds of muscle. Like there was nothing else to do besides work out.
Yeah.
Like it was literally, that was it. And so I was fortunate enough to have a gym where I could socially distant myself and lift weights for 3 months. And so that was actually a major, I took that, and I mean, it was a major positive for me. I know a lot of people, a lot of things happened during COVID, but I was very fortunate during that time.
That's really interesting. I've heard some of the same from baseball folks in saying that there is nothing that you can do during that couple months except for put your head down and work. I do want to talk a little bit about your handful of games with Gardner-Webb, though. I mentioned that 268 batting average, Big South Freshman of the Year. Looking back where you're at now to what happened maybe in February and March of 2020, how valuable is that experience playing in the Big South?
Yeah, it actually, like, it told me that I was good enough to play at this level. Like, I just sort of growing up, like, always had that doubt in my mind of like, am I sort of like the imposter syndrome? Like, am I actually like good enough? Like,
right.
And then having those 17 or 18 games that I played there, it was like, nah, I can do this. And that kind of like propelled me and set me forward to FSW and beyond.
Yeah. And then I mean, obviously you talk FSW. What was the decision to go in the transfer portal during the pandemic? How did you end up at FSW? And I guess third part here is, what was it like to play at a JUCO and have that opportunity, knowing that there could still be more for you later?
Yeah. It started actually, I had some seniors on the baseball team at Gardner-Webb that saw the potential in me before I even did.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, hey, you should go to a Florida junior college because it's a really good baseball conference in baseball state.
Right.
So they sent me a couple of recommendations, and in the portal, one of my neighbors back home, Tyler Solomon, played at FSW. He played at Vanderbilt his freshman year, then went to FSW, then went to William & Mary. He kind of set me up with with Coach Vizier from FSW, and you really can't go wrong picking a Florida JUCO. They're all really good. They're really solid programs.
Right.
And I was fortunate enough to have the chance to play at FSW.
And then what does an environment like that, how does it translate to either a high major like ECU or a low major like Gardner-Webb? There's still obviously solid competition there, but it's all about just getting the reps in every single day, like we were talking about before. But just what does playing at a smaller school like that tell you about yourself and tell you about your game and your willingness to want it?
Yeah. Junior college is a lot different than, at least in my experience, the Division I schools that I played for. It sort of felt like pro ball. It's sort of up to you. It's your career. Like, it's up to you on how you want to develop and get better. And I had a really strong first half at my junior college, and then the last half, I remember like I probably went on like a 0 for 30 streak and struggled. Also battled a knee injury there that kind of set me back, and that was the first time that I'd really been taken away from baseball for an extended period of time. So dealing with that was a little bit interesting and different. But it set me up for future success for sure. It was just it is just a tick different than the D1 schools that I played at, but competition wise, it was up there.
Yeah. What's your message to the people that may be a fan of a UVA or of a LSU, or you name what school, that may scoff at a junior college? What would you tell them about your value playing in Fort Myers?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I'd say if you can handle that Florida JUCO league or conference, like you'll be fine at a D1 school. Like not walked into ECU, but I went into ECU with a lot of confidence in myself and in my ability. And I remember opening day, I was batting 2-hole
Right.
For the Pirates, and um, it's it sets you up for the success. You just got to trust it. You can't feel like you have the imposter syndrome. Like
Yeah.
you're prepared and you're meant to be there.
And that kind of brings me to my next point. When I was doing research, I kind of saw that you committed to ECU while you were committing to FSW. Is that right? You committed kind of at the same time after Gardner-Webb. How does that work? And then do you have sort of a promise from Coach Godwin and his staff that like you will have a spot next year as long as you play 1 year here?
Yeah. Um, well, the Agnos family really set that up for me. They, I mean, as soon as I was in the portal, they reached out to Coach Godwin about me and said, this isn't because at the time they were recruiting Zach, I was still the 5'7" kid, and
Right.
we were on the same travel team growing up. And Coach Godwin remembered me, but he like didn't believe it that it was actually me, that I was sort of all grown up. And got put in contact through the Agnos family with Coach Godwin. And I told my junior college coach, I think it was like a month after I come into my JUCO, I come into ECU, and my JUCO coach wasn't too happy about it because he was like, you haven't even given these Florida schools a shot to look at you. And I'm like, one, I want to play with my best friend Zach at ECU, which like he didn't get that at the time. And two, like ECU was like my dream school. Watching Jake Agnos pitch for them in front of 5,000-6,000 Pirate fans was like that's my dream too.
Yeah.
To play in front of all those rowdy Pirate fans. So it was like a no-brainer whenever Coach Godwin offered me.
Yeah. So you have a great season in Florida, obviously, and then you transition to ECU. You have that spot. You said you batted 2-hole. What was sort of the biggest adjustment when you got to Greenville at first?
Oh man, I can never really put my finger on why I struggled that first year at ECU. I think it was a combination of like the disbelief in myself. Like I was feeling my way through it. I wasn't like fully confident in myself, and that's why I wish I could go back and just tell my younger self that you belong here. I think with experience comes confidence. So that struggling that junior year for me it set me up for my senior year, my fifth year, pretty well. But getting those game reps and understanding that this game's it's still a game of failure. You're gonna have ups and downs, but to stay even keel and steady through it all is gonna set you up.
Yeah, we're a good chunk of this conversation here, and I keep hearing you say imposter syndrome, you don't believe in yourself, this, that, and the other. If there's someone out there listening to this, maybe it's a high school ball player coming up right now, and they're sort of feeling the same thing, or maybe it's even a freshman at a school like ECU, there's something that you would tell them when they're dealing with either not believing in themselves, not having confidence, or just imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I mean, it's like if I could go back and tell myself anything, it'd be like, you're not here by accident. Like you're here for a reason, and your abilities and your talents is what got you recruited. Like you got to dive into that, and you got to believe in that. I just think that, like I said, like with experience comes confidence, but you got there in the first place through your abilities.
Yeah, I want to dive into summer baseball before we talk about your last 2 years at ECU. Obviously, in 2022 and 2023, you both continued your winning ways by way of the Charlottesville Tom Sox, and Bethesda Big Train, bringing home Valley League and Cal Ripken League championships respectively. What do you kind of see as the great joy that is the tough environment of collegiate summer baseball?
Summer ball for me was a blast. I learned a lot. Just like I'm a big believer in like game reps is how you learn about yourself and about your game. So getting the chance to play like every day, minus the heat cancellations and rainouts that you get during summer ball, you just learn a lot about yourself. And so getting to play for the Tom Sox, and then the big train was huge. Coming off of that disappointing season for me at ECU, I joined the Tom Sox and then had probably the best. I don't know how many games I played, but probably the best season that I've ever had. And again, that was like just the confidence was there. Like I can really do this. And then so took that into the next year and had a really good senior year for ECU. And then the big train, I was actually just bored sitting at home. Big train was like 40 minutes away. I knew the coach, Sal Colangelo, pretty well. I grew up with the Colangelo family playing for them. And so I hit him up and said, hey, I'm bored at home and I got to be back at school. Like, I think coach wants me back July 1st to mentor the freshmen.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I'd love to come get some ABs for you guys. And I had no part in the championship that they won other than winning a couple games during my time there. But it was cool to see them continue their success and end up winning that championship too.
It seems like your time with the Tom Sox after that disappointing season at the ECU that you mentioned, it's kind of a turning point in your career. You put up one of the best seasons in franchise history. I'll read those stats in a minute. But you were all VBL, just an absolute fire machine every single day in the plate. You talk about that, getting reps, playing usually Monday through Sunday, every single day of the week, with maybe a day off here and there. But let me read these stats and then I'll get your reaction from them. You hold the top 3 for batting average, hold the top 2 for slugging percentage, top 3 for on-base percentage, and many other records in Tom Sox history. I read those stats. What do you kind of think of there?
I mean, it's obviously really cool. I didn't even really think about it. Like in the moment, you're in the day-to-day grind, like we were talking about. And you're just trying to stack days on days. And I think I did a good job of that. And like I said, I learned a lot about myself and my game, and my confidence grew that summer. And after the first week, I had a good first week there, and I don't know, it was just like, hey, let's ride this wave out, and it ended up being the entire season. So it was a really fun season for me.
That team garnered the 3rd championship in Tom Sox history. Take me through that postseason run there.
Summer Bowl is kind of funny. Like some of the guys are like, oh man, I can't wait to get home. Like other guys are like, let's win this thing. I actually remember telling the team, I'm like, if we are going to win game 1 of the playoffs, we might as well win the entire thing. Like it's a couple more days. I'm a winner at heart. So like there was never like, I'm also, I don't know, for me, I was an hour and a half away from home. So I guess for some of the guys, it might have been a little bit different. But I was like, man, I enjoy winning. Like home will be there in a couple of days whenever that happens. But, it was a really fun run. I remember we got hot at the right time. We had a loaded pitching staff. Trey Savage, who's a first rounder, was also on that team, and Wyatt Lunsford Shankman was on that team, and they were both my teammates at ECU. So I don't know. I think that's also kind of the part of the culture that Coach Godwin instilled in us too.
You talk about those 2 ECU teammates. They're now both draft picks. You were a draft pick. How cool was that to just be able to play with 2 of your teammates in summer ball, win a championship, and bring that mojo back to the jungle?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I got to know Trey and Wyatt pretty well. Wyatt got there first, so he picked the master bedroom with the king size bed, and Trey and I slept on twin size beds about 10 feet from each other all summer. So that was a lot of fun. Got to know Trey pretty well. I mean, it was just an overall good summer. I got to really learn a lot about those guys. And then this past draft, seeing all 3 of us get drafted, and it was pretty cool moment.
Yeah, that's got to be really cool. I want to talk about your second season at ECU now. 65 games played, all AAC first team, 317 batting average, 51 runs, 8 home runs. I could list off all these stats. What was the adjustment after that first season, getting back from the Tom Sox, and generally kind of how pivotal was Cliff Godwin's staff in just keeping you up, keeping you afloat, and really motivating you to become the player that you would become?
Yeah, I think Coach Palumbo, he's actually from the Richmond area. He was a major part in my success that senior year. He always believed in me, even at the times when I didn't. And he sort of like mentored me that senior year of just getting me to buy all in to the culture that ECU had, and then into myself as well. And so the entire coaching staff at ECU always believed in me, like even when I didn't. And they kept me around, and they gave me a leadership role that year, and I got to kind of dive into that a little bit, and ended up having a good year myself, which was pretty cool. And then obviously the team had a lot of success that year as well.
Yeah, aside from ECU, I have a baseball question for you. So you played all three positions of the outfield a lot that season. 13 games in left, 35 games in right, and 3 games in center. Can you take us through kind of the pros and cons of each spot, and how difficult it is to kind of adjust your game day to day to all parts of the outfield?
Yeah, you just have to understand, like in the corners, if it's a lefty or righty hitter, different spin on the ball. Usually, if you're in right field, like toughest ball for me to read is I'm playing right field. A big lefty's up and he top spins one down the line or even at me. It's just understanding the spin of the baseball and kind of what hitters. Is this guy a slap guy? Is he more gap to gap with the backspin? The understanding that for the corners is pivotal, and then center, I wouldn't say it's the easiest because you have to cover the most ground, but the spin is more natural. If you're hitting it to center field, that means you're probably backspinning the ball pretty well, staying through the middle of the field. So, like I said, you have to cover the most ground in center, but in a sense, it's sort of the easiest to get the read, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I read off your stats from that year to your senior year: 317 batting average, 51 runs, 12 doubles, triple, 8 home runs, 39 RBI. 33 walks, 5 stolen bases. We'll talk about this more in a second, but is there one of those numbers that sticks out to you that you're proud of or that you try to focus on the most?
The runs scored. I remember there's down the stretch, I just, I hit in front of, I was hitting in between really good hitters, but behind me was Josh Moylan and Jacob Jenkins Cowart, who were big RBI guys, and Justin Wilcoxon and Jacob Starling. I had a lot of like really good guys behind me. So yeah, I mean, all I had to do was get on base and they would just knock me in. So the runs scored. I mean, that's how you win baseball games. And at ECU, that's all I cared about. I didn't, that culture there is like, you don't really care about your own stats as long as you're winning baseball games. And that is all that matters. And so, and the way to do that is to score runs. So I remember down the stretch, I was scoring a lot of runs for the team, and the guys behind me were picking me up.
Brace yourself when we read the list for the 2024 awards that you received. It's a long list. Dick Hauser Trophy semifinalist, second team All-American selection by the College Baseball Foundation, first team academic All-America selection by College Sports Communicators, ABCA All-Atlantic Region second team, NCAA Greenville All-Region team selection, AAC Player of the Year, AAC Baseball Scholar Athlete of the Year, AAC Community Impact Player of the Year, and then all AAC First Team Selection. That is a long list. When I read that list to you, Carter, what sticks out immediately?
The Community Impact one. Yes. That's it.
Talk to me about that. I was going to mention your homers that help in a minute, but I'll do it now. This is one of the main reasons I wanted to talk to you today. You were able to help raise $50,000. $50,000. That's right. That's not a typo. For the Homers That Help Foundation. First of all, congratulations, and then just kind of describe for those who don't know what that is and sort of the impact that you're able to make.
Yeah, that was a foundation that the ECU baseball team started, and it was an idea that came from God. One day I was walking through the Children's Hospital, and it was around Christmas time, and he told me, you got to help out in some way because these kids and these families are going to be here during Christmas time. So I knew I had to do something. I got the guys to Venmo me $10 each. Went to Target, picked out a bunch of gifts. We dropped off the gifts that day. Spent some time with the kids and the families before we went home for Christmas break. And God said I wasn't done yet. with that, and I had more work to do. And so the foundation was created, and essentially what it was we got 33 game sponsors for our 33 home games. And to be a sponsor, you had to pay $300. Like that was the base. And then for every home run that the Pirates hit, it was another $100 during that game that the sponsor had. So right off the bat, I think within 14 hours, all 33 slots were filled up.
Wow.
Just like that. The community in Greenville, like I was having this conversation with one of my buddies the other day, like it is like you could just take the people from Greenville, like, and I could move to anywhere in the world, but as long as like I have those people around me, I'll be set, because that community is incredible. So they did all the money raising. Hats off to the Pirate fans. They made a huge impact in the community. Obviously raising $50,000 was awesome. That means we hit a lot of home runs that year, which was good. I did donate $25 for every home run that I hit, which as a broke college kid at that time was a little tough. I didn't think I was going to end up hitting 17 home runs that year either. So it was a little steep, but it was all worth it.
Wow. I read off that list, obviously some incredible baseball accolades. Why, without hesitation, did you say that the most meaningful award to you is the Community Impact Award?
Because the vision that I have for Homers That Help is that as long as ECU baseball is around, that foundation will be around. And I won't be there this year, but the foundation will, and Parker Bird is going to do a great job running it. So, baseball is temporary. And like I said, like I was saying earlier, like this is just a game. Like there's way bigger problems, in the world than going 0-3. So, without hesitation, it's that, because the vision that I have for it is so strong, and I want it to be around forever, like I was saying. So, I also think just making an impact on the community and kids' lives, like that is way more meaningful or impactful than me having a good game at the plate. Like that doesn't do anything for anybody other than some Pirate fans are happy when they go home at night, maybe. Like, but it's not as impactful. It just isn't. So, I was just fortunate and blessed enough to help out in the community a little bit.
I can hear it how you're talking about this sense of leadership that you've garnered in your last and even your senior year at East Carolina. How do you kind of see that shaping yourself and the general leadership role with your team? How important is that to you?
I learned a lot about it this past year. At times when I wasn't a great leader, it was probably actually when I learned most, through the failures of leadership. I just did things that leaders don't do, and I learned from it and got better at it. And I'll never forget, we had a Navy SEAL come in for our Omaha challenge, and I had a meeting with him, and a quote that always stuck out to me that he said, leaders aren't missed, they're remembered. So to me, what that means is like, I have to be a strong leader this year so that next year, those sophomores that don't have juniors or those juniors that don't have seniors could be like in a sense, like what would Carter have done? Like instead of saying, oh, like, I wish he was here to handle it. Like, no, this is what he would have done. And like, that's how you're being remembered.
Wow.
And you're not being missed because those guys are stepping up to the plate and taking on that role.
Yeah. We have to talk about your baseball. If we talk about your senior, I guess it's your 5th year of college, 77 runs, 17 doubles, 3 triples, 17 home runs, top 20 nationally in runs scored, top 25 nationally in total hits. That's astounding to me. Your on the field accolades are incredible, as are your off the field accolades that we just talked about. But what do those numbers kind of mean to you?
I scored a lot of runs again, so that's good. That means the team had a good year. If the guy at the top of the lineup is scoring runs, that means the guys around him are also having good years as well. And that was true because I got to hit in between Riley Johnson and Jacob Jenkins Coward and Ryan McChrystal and another loaded lineup. So my numbers were good. It was cool to have those numbers, but more importantly, like I don't know, I like Coach Godwin just beat it into our brains that numbers don't matter and winning does, and that's the only thing that matters at ECU. So,
Yep.
um, again, it was another phenomenal season this past season. We had a good playoff run. Came up a little bit short, but um, I yeah, I was just beyond blessed and grateful to even have the chance to play at ECU.
Couple more quick ones for ECU before we move on. I mentioned earning Scholar Athlete of the Year. I want to know what you studied and then how you kind of intend to apply that later on in life.
Yeah, actually, that's actually a really good question because I was actually shadowing medical device sales reps in Midlothian, Virginia, over Christmas break before the season, because I didn't think I had to have had the year that I had to get drafted. I mean, I was
Yeah.
a fifth year. I wasn't this high draft prospect coming into the year, so I was setting myself up for post baseball. Had a lot of weirdly enough, like a lot of job interviews with insurance companies, some med device sales, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. But I was getting my MBA, and I was lucky enough to get it in a year. I actually have I was supposed to do a summer internship this summer to complete it, and that would have been it. But the draft got in the way of that, and so I got three more. I technically have to take three more elective courses to get my MBA. But I studied business as my undergrad, and then got was beyond blessed to get come close to finishing my MBA. Um, and then later down the road, I don't really know what I want to do post baseball. I want to play this game as long as
Oh,
possible, but uh, I have a knack for leadership, so I think it would be pretty cool to like run an organization or run a company one day. I think
that's awesome.
that's something that God's placed on my heart.
That's awesome. One more about ECU. ECU is a bona fide baseball school through and through. There's no arguing that. The jungle is one of the premier baseball environments in the country. How awesome is it to play in that environment on a day-to-day basis?
Another fantastic question because that was like my dream. Like I saw Jake Agnos pitch on a Friday night in front of 5,000 people. But it's not just like 5,000 people, like it's 5,000 passionate fans, and like they live and die by how how we play, how we do. And I was just beyond blessed to actually play in front of all those amazing fans and people that made such an impact on me. And I mean, that is why like I wanted to find a way to get back to the community because like they meant so much to me that I was just like I gotta do something to help this community out because it was like I was saying the people in Greenville like it makes the place. It was incredible and the jungle was absolutely electric.
One
Uh,
of one.
just it was a dream come true.
That's amazing. You mentioned that you wouldn't get drafted. You didn't think you would get drafted unless you had the senior season that you did. You had the senior season that you did. Going out of ECU after the season, after you lost in the postseason, what was the process like? Were there people calling you? Were there agents calling you saying, "Carter, I think you could go in the 10th round. I think you could go top 15 rounds." What was that process like, and how hectic was it?
Yeah, I did end up getting an agent pretty close to the draft because there was a lot of buzz around my name. Just they saw the numbers, so
Yeah,
um, they no scouts were reaching out to me directly. But once I got an agent, they were they were hammering him pretty hard. So he was a huge help in that process. He was hearing a lot of stuff like, hey, maybe late day two, early day three. And that was a unique process. I didn't really know what to expect. I did know going into it that I was going to have to sign under slot value as a senior with no eligibility left. It was take it or leave it. Like you have no leverage.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I got my signing bonus, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity.
What? How did you find out that you would end up with the Blue Jays? Was it much of a surprise that you were going right there, or was that kind of a spot that you had keyed in on and really was set for you from kind of the beginning?
They were actually pretty high on me out of junior college. I did a workout with them, a pre-draft workout out of junior college with them, and then I did another one after this season in Georgia with them. Them and the Giants were two teams that were pretty high on me. They were probably the two biggest. So I sort of had an idea that it was going to be one of the two. The Blue Jays, like I said, they kind of always seem to like me. So I was pretty pumped up when they drafted me because I knew I'd be like seen in this organization and valued. And I sort of just didn't get that vibe with other teams. So I was just grateful to be a Blue Jay.
Yeah. What was draft day like for you? It's always one of the most intense days of an athlete's career, always one of the most memorable moments when they hear their name called. What do you remember from that day and kind of the chaos that ensued afterwards?
It's actually pretty funny. I was on a cruise with my girlfriend's family. So
Okay.
they were out on an excursion that they had booked. They had this booked for months in advance. They also had the trip booked months in advance, and they paid for my ticket and my stay. So I really wanted to go, and I'd never been on a vacation before. Like I'd never actually like really just took time off to relax. So I was like, hey, I'm all for this. So I was just sitting in my room watching the draft on my laptop, and I got the call, and then heard my name called. Watched it on my laptop, and I was just sitting in the room with her sister's boyfriend, and it was just like it happened. It was just like cool. Like it was just
That's
weird,
crazy.
like there wasn't anything really going on. And I mean, the people on the cruise like obviously had like they don't care about me. Like they were just it was just like a weird moment because like my dream had just come true, but like the family next to me is just enjoying their vacation. Like it was funny, but it was a good time.
And then how did you get up to Toronto from there? Or I guess not Toronto. Maybe you went to Florida after that. What was that like? Just kind of taking in everything that minor league baseball had to offer.
Yeah. I mean, I got off the boat, went home, packed. I think the next day I flew out to Dunedin, the spring training complex, and got right to work. First day was just physicals and stuff, medical history, all that good stuff. And then the day after that was like, hey, let's get you ramped up to go playing some games. And so I
Yep.
spent about a week and a half maybe at the complex, just getting reps. I mean, I hadn't seen live pitching since ECU season ended, so it had been a while. And they got me ramped up pretty quick, and then I met the team. They were in Daytona, so I met them in Daytona at the time.
That's awesome. You talked about your signing bonus earlier. Athletes all the time talk about, oh, I bought a car my first purchase. Was there a big first purchase that you had after your first big contract?
Funny enough, I just bought a lot of podcast equipment.
All right.
I want to start a faith podcast, so I bought an iPad, which was a little pricey, but it was all worth it. I got a microphone, some headphones, just I think I got another stand, like a podcast stand. So I don't know, just a bunch of podcast equipment. I guess that was sort of like my first big boy purchase, maybe.
Hey, that's awesome. Real quick, plug yourself. I know the show may not be out yet, but if people are listening and they want to hear Carter's podcast, can they follow you on social media and it'll be up soon?
Yeah, I'm sort of getting some kinks worked out. I'm gonna call it the Just God Pod,
Okay.
because I think people would probably expect me to like make a sports podcast or a baseball podcast, but I don't want to talk about that stuff. I mean, if it comes up, it does.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about my faith, and I'm gonna bring on guests every episode,
That's
um,
awesome.
and sort of dive into their faith as well, and how God has used them in ways. So I'm very excited for that. Um, I probably should get some social media pages out for that as well. But it's all in the process, so I'm expecting it to be at least another month of making it a solid podcast.
Sweet. Well, I look forward to seeing it. Before we wrap up, I got a couple quick hitting questions. Once again, appreciate your time here. First thing you think of for all these questions, favorite stadium that you played in that is not the Jungle?
Ooh, um, I, ooh, I don't know. In college, it was probably UNC Chapel Hill. They had a really
Yes.
nice, they had like a really nice venue.
I've heard that answer before. Yeah. I think it's great. Yeah.
It was nice.
What's the reason behind the jersey number that you wear?
17 in college. I wanted 15, but our pitching coach that Austin Knight never even wore the jersey was number 15. He like never even put it on, but he took that number for some reason.
Okay.
So I was pretty pissed at him. But 17 was Coach Burkhardt's number at Battlefield. And I had a lot of respect for him, and he got me to where I am now. So I guess I was honoring him in a sense.
Sweet. You go to the gas station. What's your go-to snack and drink combo?
I'm going peanut M&Ms and Nesquik strawberry milk.
That is an amazing answer. Who's the actor that you'd want to play yourself in the movie? If they made a remake about the 2022 Charlottesville Tom Sox, who would want to play you?
I'm going. Oh, that's actually a really good question. Probably like I love Will Ferrell. Like he's not an athlete. Like he wouldn't be good at baseball. But actually, he tried it out this spring. He went to all the spring training sites.
Yeah.
So
I'll throw a curveball at you. Who would you want to play Wyatt and Trey making the ECU trio?
I think I got to go with Channing Tatum's up there. And then, yeah, I'll go Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill. Well, what was that movie?
Jonah
what
Hill
was it called?
Moneyball.
Yeah, but they had one. It was like I forgot what it was. It was like they went back to high school and were like undercover cops. I forgot what it was about. But
it's not coming to me either. But someone will say it, and we'll both be mad at ourselves that we didn't.
Exactly.
If you could only listen to one artist for the rest of your life, who would it be?
Morgan Wallen.
Awesome. Would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck?
One horse-sized duck. Dang, that's actually got to be a huge duck. Those things can be pretty mean. I'm probably gonna go 100 horse-sized or duck-sized horses.
What's your game plan going into it? Because it's 1 versus 100.
100. I mean, they're gonna be at your shins. I guess you'd have to just start kicking away.
Fair enough. All right, I'm gonna end it with the final question that we ask everybody on this show. The answer doesn't have to be about baseball. It doesn't have to be about faith. It can be about whatever you want. What is one great piece of advice that someone has given you in your life that you would like to share with the world?
I mean, it's a Bible verse that I try to live by every day. Philippians 2:3. It says, "Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourself." I think if you just take that mindset, actually the next verse says, "Don't look at your own interests, but also look at the interests of others." And so that's sort of just my mindset and how I approach life, just trying to make the person next to me a little bit better.
Hey, I love that. That is a great answer. Carter, really appreciate you taking the time here today. A lot of fun watching you from the Tom Sox to ECU, FSW, of course, Gardner-Webb, now in the minor leagues, hopefully one day in the major leagues of baseball. Really, really, really fun. Everybody is just rooting for you. You're an easy guy to root for. So I appreciate you taking the time with me today. I can't thank you enough. It's really cool to hear your story and just have you share with everybody listening and watching sort of what it means to embody this message that we're sharing on this story, and that everybody's path can be different. And, your path doesn't have to be the next guy's path. And you can make an impact on the game in more ways than one.
100%. Well, I appreciate all the kind words and for having me on. Looking forward to watching you grow in your Tom Sox career and beyond. And tell Jeff Burton I said hello as well.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Carter. Really appreciate it. Everyone, thanks so much for watching. Sweet.
Unique Pathways is sponsored by Piedmont Realty Holdings.
Carter, catching a couple minutes late. $50,000. That is amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I mean, working with the Tom Sox for a couple years, I've gotten to know a couple. We had Colby and Nick on the team this year. Great guys. It's a lot of fun. It's cool how you're kind of staying up with us too and everything. Yeah, so much fun. We're big fans of the ECU guys. To Web Gems in the playoffs. Yeah, it was awesome. Both of them are awesome. Yeah, I got to know Colby a little bit. Both of them are great guys. Yeah, sweet. Yeah, it was cool. It's cool seeing. It's cool. Like I mean, you experienced it. It's cool when they're teammates on the team at the same time. It kind of eases you into it. But yeah, awesome. Hey, I'll let you go about your day. Thanks again. Be in touch. Yeah. Good luck with everything. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very, very, very special guest on today's episode of Unique Pathways with Ben Rekosh. That is myself, presented by H3 Sports. Thanks to everybody so much for tuning in. Today, we are joined by Carter Cunningham. Carter Cunningham is an alum of East Carolina University, an alum of Florida Southwestern, a current member of the Toronto Blue Jays organization, just a winner through and through. One of the greatest people you will ever meet in your life. Really appreciate Carter taking a lot of time with me today. And as always, just really appreciate everybody here tuning in to the show. As a reminder, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on YouTube, whatever it may be, hit that little follow button, hit that subscribe button, leave a thumbs up. If you're on YouTube, leave a comment for us, maybe a question for the next show, maybe something that you really enjoyed or learned from today's show. If you're on Apple Podcasts, go down, rate us 5 stars, give that review. It really helps us out. And same as Spotify, just hitting that follow button, hitting that little we appreciate you button there on Spotify. Everything really does help us out. From me at H3, I really appreciate everybody helping this vision that we have of head, heart, and hustle every single day in every single thing that anybody does, and sharing this message on Unique Pathways that everybody can impact the game in more ways than one. And, it's not all about it's not all about where you go. It's about how you get there. And just every single person has meaning. They can contribute to this game. They can impact the game. And just sharing the story about how a certain person has gotten to where they are, and of course, who has helped them get there. I think Carter Cunningham personifies the message that we are trying to share on this show. So I really thank him for hopping on this podcast today. Thanks to everybody for listening. And without further ado, let's get into my incredible conversation with Valley Baseball League champion and current minor league baseball player, Carter Cunningham. All right. Well, that'll wrap up today's show. Thanks to everybody for tuning in to our amazing conversation with Carter Cunningham. Once again, really appreciate him tuning into this show, hopping on with me for a long time, sharing his story, sharing the impact that he has on the world. Obviously, wishing him nothing but the best in minor league baseball and beyond as he graduated from East Carolina and is on to great things here with the Dunedin Blue Jays, and then will continue to be just an incredible person and an incredible baseball player. So thanks again to him for joining the show. Thanks again to everybody listening. Really appreciate it. And once again, we have some great episodes coming to you every single week. Thanks to H3 Media Thanks to Andy Healthmeyer for producing this. Thanks to Jeff Burton for inspiring our show and making it possible every single day. But just an amazing time that we have here on Unique Pathways. Unique Pathways presented by H3 Sports. I am, of course, your host, Ben Rekosh. As I said at the top of the show, subscribe, like, comment, rate, review. If you like this episode, share it with your friends, share it on social media, share it wherever you may share your podcast or YouTube videos, whatever you may see fit. That's awesome. We really appreciate all the support. Be sure to be on the lookout for some amazing episodes next week and beyond. Have some incredible guests lined up here in the future. So once again, thanks to everybody for listening to me. Thanks to Carter, our guest this week. An amazing interview with him. And, happy to bring you H3 Unique Pathways with myself, Ben Rekosh. Thanks to everybody. Sweet.